Hey everybody, Joe Gilder here with HomeStudioCorner.com, and today I want to talk about gating and using gates and expanders in your music and audio and why you'd want to use them. Gates and expanders are kind of the same thing. It's kind of like a compressor and a limiter are the same thing, sort of. A limiter is just an extreme version of a compressor, basically, and a gate is an extreme version of an expander. So I've got this plugin here, and this is a plugin from Waves that gives you both a compressor section and a gate/expander section. So what we're going to see here, first off, we all know how a compressor works. Here's the signal, and as it jumps above this level, it turns the signal down, and that's nothing really all that new. So we're listening to my podcast from last week, and so as we can see, whenever I talk and the signal goes above this little triangle here, you'll see this is the gain reduction, and it turns it down. We set up in his studio using the Bluebird. So it's a fairly dramatic example, but you can see that here. So if I turn that up, you can hear it is compressing. We set up in his studio using the the Baby Bottle microphone from Blue. Okay, so obviously that's a little extreme on the compression side, but you get the point. So in this diagram over here shows that. So if we look, this yellow line is our compressor. So as the signal comes up, it stays the same volume, and it gets above this threshold here, which is this orange triangle, then it gets turned down a certain amount. And you can watch it. We set up in his studio using the the Baby Bottle. Okay, so we know what a compressor does. An expander does the exact opposite. Whenever the signal drops below the threshold, it turns it down. So in this example, this top triangle here is our threshold. So when we turn this on, whenever the signal drops below this top triangle, then it turns it down. So if we make this fairly extreme, you can hear that at work. We set up in his studio using the the Baby Bottle microphone from Blue. And then we ran it into the stock preamp as it comes from PreSonus. So as I'm getting to the quiet parts, it's turning me down. We set up in his studio using the the Baby Bottle microphone from Blue. And then we ran it into... Okay, so to give you an example of why that's useful, in that particular scenario, it's not. But the idea is, whenever I do any pauses in the audio, whenever I pause for effect or whatnot, the problem there is I'm in my studio. My computer is 2 feet away from the microphone, so you're going to hear that, especially in a podcast where things are very quiet. So let's take a listen to the audio just by itself. The Baby Bottle microphone from Blue. So that space in between, if I turn that up a little bit more, you'll hear, let me turn it up here. You'll hear there's quite a bit of noise, just breath noise and just the room noise between the two signals, or between the two phrases. Bottle microphone from Blue. Okay, so you heard that. And if you can't hear that very well and you're watching this on YouTube, try to listen to it, watch the video in HD. The audio quality is quite a bit better. And so as we go through from Blue, you hear noise there, tube, and the breath noise is really loud, or the knob, and it's just those spots there. And so what we want to do is use a gate to turn down the audio in that section. I don't need to hear that room noise, so let's just go ahead and turn that down. So we set the threshold of this gate to open around this area and turn it down by about 10 or 12 dB. So now, in those dead spots, it's going to turn it down. The Baby Bottle microphone from Blue. And then we ran it into the stock preamp as it comes from PreSonus with the stock tube. And so you'll notice every time I stop talking, it turns down the audio. You'll see it's turned down right now because there's no audio coming through. And as soon as audio is present and crosses this threshold, it lets it pass. And then when I'm quiet again, it turns it back down. For example, right here, the drive knob, all the way. That section right there is now nice and quiet as opposed to hearing all the audio there. So I'm going to turn it up just a little bit and then let you listen to it the before and after. So here is without the expander on. The drive knob, all the way. And now this is with the expander. The drive knob, all the way up or close to it. So that's how I use it. Now, I don't use this particular plugin. It's got a better visual to show you what's going on there. But I actually use this SSL plugin. So I use this for both my EQ and compression and also the gating or the expanding. So as you can see, this line, this row of lights here represents how much gating is happening. So right now it's turning it down by 20 dB. I can make it only turn it down by 3 dB or 6 dB, but we'll put it right around there. And so once audio comes through, you're going to hear it again. It's going to do the exact same thing. And you can see, here's how much it's compressing, here's how much it's expanding, and all those little gaps between the phrases are now nice and quiet. I thought you guys would want to hear it as well. So we set up in his studio using, and you can hear it in this section, this big long pause here. Right here, you can hear it really well. Model microphone from Blue. And then we ran it into the stock preamp as it comes. So you'll notice here where I'm taking a breath, you can still hear the breath because it didn't mute the audio. It's not the same as coming in here and deleting that audio entirely. It's just turning it down. So it turns down the room noise, it turns down the breath sounds and everything else. And it sounds like I'm recording in a booth as opposed to recording in my room a few feet away from my hard drives and computers. So that's one of the most practical uses of gating and expanding that I use on a day-to-day basis. Another couple of places you can use that makes sense as far as in a musical standpoint when mixing music, a lot of times gates can be used for drum kits. So you can put a gate on your toms so that you only hear the tom mics when the toms are hit. And then once they're hit and the signal dies down, it turns that signal off again or turns it way down so you're not hearing the bleed from all the other pieces of the kit. That can be really effective, especially if you've got a lot of bleed and you're trying to tame things a little bit. So maybe you're hearing the cymbals in your tom mics and you're hearing the snare in your tom mics. If you adjust a gate on there, then you'll only hear that mic when the drummer hits the tom, and then when he's not playing the tom, it turns that signal down so you're not hearing that along with all the other mics that you're listening to. So hopefully that helps. I thought using it on a spoken word thing would be the best way to explain that and show you how that works. But next time you're having issues with noise and things, you may not need to use a noise reduction plugin or a lot of fancy editing. Sometimes just throwing a gate on there can be the ticket and the thing that you need. So hope this helps. Thanks again. I'm Joe Gilder from HomeStudioCorner.com. Head over to the website if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot.